With the release of Despicable Me 4, I figured it would be the perfect time to stop and rank all of these 6 movies in the Despicable Me franchise from the worst to the best. Let's get started.
And here we go.
Welcome back to the channel. My name is Ben, and on this channel, I love to talk about movies and TV, and if you also love to talk about movies and TV, consider hitting that like and subscribe button. As we get into this video, be sure to let me know your ranking down below in the comments, whether you've seen only 2 movies or the entire franchise. Let me know how you would rank them, which one's your favorite. I wouldn't call myself a die-hard fan of these movies, maybe you are though, and we're gonna have different lists, but that's okay. With all that being said, let's get started with last place. And in last place, I have Despicable Me 3, which is pretty neck and neck with the number 5 spot, I would say. Basically, this movie is just dull. Nothing about it pops. I think one of the few cool ideas in this movie is the villain, but he doesn't get as much screen time as he really should. I like the idea of an 80s-centric villain and all the little gadgets he has. The 80s soundtrack, of course. But unfortunately, nothing here is really all that entertaining anymore for me, and I just didn't find this movie funny either. Similar to my issues with a couple of the other movies, this movie lacks a cohesive story at times. There are so many subplots, it feels like a bunch of mini little stories tied together. It just ends up feeling like a lazy sequel and just fails to recapture, or not even attempt to recapture, any of the heart in the previous movies. You have Lucy trying to bond with the girls, Gru and Drew, the 80s villain, the minions escaping prison. There's a lot going on here, it's overstuffed. The ideas don't mesh well with each other too. This is the worst of the bunch. Above it, I have the newly released Despicable Me 4, and if you want to hear my full review, my full thoughts on the movie, I'll leave my review linked right up above. But I described this movie in my review as a nothing sandwich. There is not much here for anyone that, unless you're a diehard fan of this franchise, it's just time that I myself, I know, I'm just going to tap out. The voice cast and the animation is great. Those are the only 2 things really keeping this franchise going in terms of pros, I would say. But once again, there are just so many subplots going on. Gru has like 3 of them. And this is just a movie that appeals to the lowest common denominator. I was severely unimpressed throughout, continuously checking the time, seeing how much longer was left. I was bored. I just missed the original heartwarming charm of the first movie specifically. And it just seems like these movies don't really care to recapture that anymore, at least, and that sucks. Why do you keep going if you don't want to do anything really to make an impact? At number 4, I have Minions: The Rise of Gru, which ended up being what you might call a cultural phenomenon. Honestly took like the internet by storm, and I think that was just due to the fact that it felt silly enough and there were people dressing up in suits to go see the movie. It was a big deal. One of those you had to be there moments. I watched this movie for the first time just a couple days ago, and I found it to be extremely disposable. There's no compelling story of any sorts. The movie goes all over the place in the middle section, which seemingly tends to be a common problem with these movies. I thought the final battle was decently creative, animation is cool, again. But at one point or another, I just started to lose interest in the movie. That happened pretty quickly on. And why are we just settling for passable entertainment? That's not enough for me. Maybe it is for you, but unimpressed, to say the least. Bringing us into our top 3, which is going to be Minions, a movie that I find to be cute and harmless. It feels like the easy thing to just crap on the Minions for them being annoying. I have never particularly found them to be overly annoying. I think it depends on how much of them you can take. I think, if anything, they do make me chuckle here and there, but that's pretty much only for the first 2-ish movies. I enjoyed the different setting with 60s UK, the little references to big moments of pop culture at that time, especially like the Beatles, but it just ends up being fine in the end. It offers legitimately nothing else other than to be just childish entertainment. There are some exciting chase sequences. The voice actors are good. I think they do a good job at capturing the gibberish of the Minions. But at one point, I just am kind of grasping at straws here, trying to find the real pros. It's fine. It's disposable. At number 2, the sequel to the original Despicable Me, Despicable Me 2. A big highlight in this movie, and it's one that has always been, is the soundtrack. Significantly, they have gotten worse, I would say, after probably the sequel. But whether it's Just a Cloud Away, Happy, this is an Oscar-nominated film, and the soundtrack is great. Ferrell did such a great job. There are some songs in here that are on my rotating playlist. The humor is definitely a bit more childish this time around. There's not as much for both adults and children to, I guess, enjoy. I don't think the villain is as memorable as Vector. Not to say Vector is some incredible villain, but he's just memorable for his goofy antics. He has this silly charm to him that even, I know people still to this day are still quoting him, doing his little mannerisms here and there. Oh yeah! And that made him stand out. This guy, no, he doesn't stand out. What makes this movie feel like a bit of a drop-off, at least for me, is that it's not as heartfelt or entertaining. Gru finding a romantic partner was sweet and all, but was it necessarily needed? I don't really know. It felt like a safe enough place to go for a sequel, but after he just found a love to kind of fill that little void in his heart, I guess you could say. In the first movie, he found what it really meant to care for others. I felt like that had a stronger impact. It's definitely not terrible, and it's watchable enough, but if I'm gonna watch one of the Despicable Me movies, I'm gonna go for my number one pick. But at number one, the easy pick, and the one that is well deserving of number one, the first movie, the original Despicable Me. This is a very charming animated film. It's very solid, don't get me wrong, it's nothing fantastic. It's surprisingly quotable. All these years later, I find myself just quoting the movie. I forgot how many funny lines there are in here, and if anything, that just makes the movie more rewatchable. I want to go back to this one more out of the rest of them. Yes, humor, a little bit childish, but I guess it's the least annoying of the bunch. The minions just make me chuckle. While the animation definitely does look cheap, it's cool to see how far we've gotten with it, and now it just looks great. The inherent idea of a man, in this case Gru, learning to love someone other than himself, that's sweet. And over the course of the story, you find yourself just falling for him and the girls. If I were to nitpick, I honestly think the idea of Gru not feeling like he really belonged in the world, the movie does a lot of flashbacks to that point in time. Whether it's his mother not really giving him her seal of approval, that feeling of not being good enough, it could have had a stronger presence throughout. I can understand why they didn't want to put it too prevalent throughout the movie, maybe just because it's a kid's movie and that might be a little harsh. I can understand that mindset, but I think that that's something important to have. In the end though, it's genuinely a solid family film, one that I don't mind revisiting over the years. I've seen it a bunch. It had to come in at number one. But that is it for my ranking of the Despicable Me franchise. Again, be sure to let me know down below in the comments, how would you rank these movies? Which one is your favorite, your least favorite? Let me know. I want to thank you so much for watching this video, and again, if you did enjoy it, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, as well as that notification bell so you don't miss any further videos. And as always, look forward to more content coming soon. My name is Ben, people call me Meteor, and I'll see you guys in the next one.